Every CFO in this room has approved AI spend in the last 18 months, and almost none of you know if it's working. It's not a criticism. It's not a technology problem. It's not even a strategy problem. It's a visibility problem, and it's about to get very expensive. My name is Robert Laughter. I spent the early part of my career building GRC and IT asset management software, work that ended with an acquisition by Navex, one of the world's leading governance and compliance platforms. It gave me a deep appreciation for how organizations think about risk control from the inside. From there, I moved into cloud cost optimization, watched FinOps emerge as a discipline, spent years helping finance and procurement understand a cost category that didn't behave like anything they'd managed before. And for the last 2 years, I've been watching AI do the exact same thing, only much faster. And with the added problem, neither your FinOps framework nor your GRC framework was built for it. That's the lens I'm bringing today. I want to start with 2 stories. Same era, both tech-forward companies, very different outcomes. Number 1, it's 2022. The fintech market is cratering. Valuations are collapsing, and Klarna, one of Europe's biggest buy now, pay later platforms, needs to cut costs fast. Their answer? Replace people with AI. They stop hiring entirely. Over the next 2 years, headcounts dropped from 5,500 to 3,400, mostly through attrition. But the direction is intentional. Their AI chatbot, built with OpenAI, takes over customer service. Within a month of launch, it's handling 2.3 million customer conversations. The CEO goes on record saying, AI can do all the jobs we as humans do. On paper, it works. Resolution times improve, labor costs drop, the board is happy, and headlines are glowing. And then, customer feedback starts coming in. Robotic responses and flexible scripts, people stuck in loops, explaining their problems to a bot, getting a generic answer, getting transferred to a human, and having to explain everything again from scratch. Satisfaction scores drop, complaints climb, and the brand takes significant damage. By early 2025, the CEO is back in front of Bloomberg with a very different tone. We focused too much on costs. The result was lower quality. Klarna is now rehiring, not at original salaries, as gig contractors in what we're calling an Uber-style model. But here's the more interesting read on what actually happened. The AI didn't fail. The AI worked brilliantly. It was extraordinarily good at resolving tickets fast. But that was the wrong goal. Klarna's real organizational intent wasn't to resolve tickets fast. It was to build lasting customer relationships that drive lifetime value in a very competitive fintech market. Those are 2 profoundly different objectives, and they require profoundly different decisions at the point of interaction. A human agent with 5 years at the company knows this intuitively. They know when to bend a policy, when to spend 3 extra minutes because the customer's tone says they're about to churn, when efficiency is the right move, and when generosity is the right move. The AI agent knew none of it. It had a prompt, it had data, it didn't have intent. And $60 million in labor savings was not nearly enough to cover the reputational damage from becoming a public example of AI gone wrong. The lesson, again, isn't that AI failed. The lesson is that AI succeeded at exactly the wrong thing. And nobody saw it coming because nobody had the visibility to see what was actually being optimized until the customer told them. Different company, different approach entirely. Number 2, Shopify started their AI journey in late 2021, a full year before ChatGPT even existed. Their VP of Engineering, Farhan Tharwar, went directly to GitHub CEO and said, I love this quote, "I don't care what you have for commercial use. I want this deployed for all Shopify engineers as soon as possible." They rolled out GitHub Copilot. hit 80% adoption so fast that GitHub called them asking how they did it. But again, here's where it gets interesting for this room. When they rolled out their next AI tool, Cursor, they didn't just give it to engineers. They gave it to everyone. Support teams, sales teams, finance, operations, every model, every tool, no restrictions. And they built visibility in from day one. An internal dashboard showing AI usage and token spend by team, by person. Not to police it, to understand it, to see where value is actually being created. And what they found surprised them. Thauer said it directly. The fastest growing groups using are not engineering. It's support and revenue. A technical sales rep used the tool to build a site performance audit that auto-generates competitive comparisons for prospects. A sales engineer built a personal dashboard pulling from all his tools, G Suite, Slack, and Salesforce. He reportedly no longer opens those tools directly. The AI interface is his homepage now. Because they could see all of it, because they had the visibility, something important happened. They didn't just learn where AI was being used, they learned where it was creating real value. And that changed everything about how they invested. AI spend at Shopify followed the data, not the assumption. When the visibility showed that support and revenue teams were getting outsized value, they doubled licenses. And then they tripled them. Investment accelerated because the evidence was there to justify it. And then they went one step further. AI usage became part of the performance reviews, not as punishment, but as a signal. If you're using AI heavily and getting results, that shows up. If you're not engaging with it at all, well, that shows up too. They built a culture where AI fluency is a professional capability, not an optional extra. Thauer summed it up simply. Show you can use AI more, and you'll get more resources. And that's the flywheel. Visibility creates insight. Insight drives investment. Investment expands capability, and capability gets measured, recognized, and rewarded. That's not an AI headline. That's an AI operating model. So again, two companies, same era. Klarna optimized for what they could measure, cost per interaction, and they missed what they couldn't see. Customer experience eroding in real time. And they found out when complaints came in. Shopify measured everything from the start. And what that visibility told them changed where they invested, who they invested in, and how fast they scaled. And one of those two companies had to hire everybody back. So why am I telling you these two stories? Because Klarna and Shopify aren't outliers. They're just the ones you've heard of. They're the ones that did it publicly enough that we can learn from them. There are a lot of important conversations happening in AI right now. Vendor lock-in, pricing models that don't look anything like SaaS, contract structures nobody has a playbook for yet, agent sprawl, infrastructure costs that are blowing past every forecast. All real, all worth your time. But every one of these conversations assumes you can see what's happening first. And that's the part nobody has. Right now in your organization, AI spend is happening, whether you approved it or not. It's in your Microsoft bill, Copilot licenses, some activated, some not. It's in your Azure and AWS costs. Teams spinning up OpenAI API access without a procurement ticket. It's embedded in tools you already renewed. Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workday. All of them now have AI baked in. And it's on corporate cards, individual subscriptions to ChatGPT, Claude, that nobody expense correctly. And the question I want to ask you, the same question Shopify was able to answer and Klarna wasn't, is this. Do you know who in your organization is actually using AI right now? Which teams, which workflows, what outcomes? Because if you can't answer that, you're not making investment decisions. You're making guesses. And in a world where AI spend is the fastest growing line item in your technology budget, guessing is getting expensive. But I want to take a step back because I've seen this movie before, twice. The first time was in on-premise data centers. Every enterprise had them. Servers in the basement or a colo facility somewhere, managed by IT, completely opaque to finance and procurement. Nobody knew the true cost. Nobody knew the utilization. Nobody could tell you which workloads were business critical and which ones were running at 4% capacity because someone provisioned them 3 years ago and forgot about them. The answer was visibility, asset management, chargeback models, cost allocation frameworks. It took years to build the discipline, but eventually organizations got there. Then came cloud, and we did it all over again. Suddenly, costs were variable, consumption-based, invisible in a different way. Not because the hardware was physical or hard to track, but because anybody with their credit card could spin up infrastructure in minutes. Shadow IT exploded. Bills arrived at the end of the month with line items nobody could explain. The answer again was visibility. And cloud FinOps emerged as a discipline. Showback, chargeback, reserved instances, savings plans, tagging strategies. An entire category of tooling got built around the problem of seeing your cloud clearly enough to govern it. And I've spent the last 4 or 5 years in that world, helping organizations get visibility in the cloud spend, helping finance and procurement understand a cost category that didn't behave like anything they'd managed before. And now I'm watching it happen a third time. AI, same pattern, new environment. Cost spreading faster than governance. Spend appearing in places nobody mapped. Finance trying to forecast something that doesn't behave like SaaS and doesn't behave like infrastructure. Procurement writing contracts for tools they can't fully see. But here's where it's different this time. The speed is faster. The cloud took 5 to 7 years to become a board level conversation. AI got there in 18 months. The invisibility is deeper. At least with cloud, you could see the infrastructure. AI is embedded in tools you already own, running on infrastructure you're already paying for, used by people whose behavior you've never had to track before. And the stakes are higher. Because AI isn't just a cost category, it's a capability. And the gap between organizations that can see it clearly and those that can't isn't just a financial gap, it's a competitive one. This is the problem we at Cloudsaver went and built something to solve. Not because it's an interesting technical challenge, which it is, but because we'd watched this pattern twice before and we knew what happens when organizations fly blind into a cost category that's growing faster than their ability to govern it. The question for everyone in this room, the same question it was during cloud, is are you going to get ahead of it or spend the next 3 years cleaning it up? Let me give you a few numbers to frame what we're actually talking about. In 2024, according to Menlo Ventures, enterprise generative AI spend was roughly $11.5 billion globally. In 2025, it hit $37 billion. That's a 3x increase in a single year. And 92% of executives surveyed by McKinsey plan to increase that spend again in the next 3 years. Not maintain, increase. The investment is accelerating. The pressure is real. Now here's the next number that should stop every finance and procurement leader cold. MIT published a study in 2025. 150 executive interviews, 350 employee surveys, 300 public AI deployments analyzed. And the finding? 95% of enterprise AI projects deliver zero measurable return on investment. 95%. That's 35 to 40 billion in initiatives and almost none of it showing up on the P&L. The boardroom is running out of patience. 61% of senior business leaders say they feel more pressure than ever to prove ROI on AI. And 53% of investors expect to see it in 6 months or less. So let me simplify what that means for this room. You're being asked to invest more, faster, in a category that most organizations cannot currently measure, with stakeholders who want proof in 6 months, and in a market where 95 out of 100 companies are currently failing to deliver it. That is the pressure sitting on the CFO's desk right now, whether it's being named or not. And here's the thing. This isn't an AI problem. The MIT researchers were clear about that. The technology works. The 5% who are getting results aren't using better models or bigger budgets. They're doing what Shopify did. They picked focused use cases. They measured behavior from day one. They built visibility into what was actually happening before they scaled. The difference between the 5% and the 95%, it isn't the AI. It's the operating model around the AI. And that's exactly what we need to talk about. Let me tell you what's actually happening inside your organization right now. Your finance team is looking at a Microsoft bill that's 40% higher than last year. Some of that's Copilot, some of it's Azure consumption, some of it's OpenAI API calls from 3 different engineers who each thought they were the only ones doing it. Nobody has the full picture. Your procurement team just renewed Salesforce, and Einstein AI is baked in. Nobody told them they were already paying for 2 other tools that do roughly the same thing. Your cloud bill has a new line item on it that didn't exist 18 months ago. It says AI services, growing 20% month over month, and nobody owns it. And somewhere in your organization, someone spun up an AI agent last Tuesday. No procurement ticket, no security review, no data governance sign-off. And it has access to customer data. Nobody knows. This isn't a technology failure. It's not a people failure. It's a category failure. Here's the problem finance and procurement were never designed to handle. AI doesn't fit anywhere cleanly. Is it SaaS? Sometimes. Is it infrastructure? Sometimes. Is it a productivity tool? A labor replacement? A development platform? Yes, yes, and yes. And yes, often all at once inside the same organization. Traditional SaaS, you buy by the seat. You know what you're getting. You negotiate the contract, track the licenses, measure utilization at renewal. Cloud infrastructure, you manage through FinOps, showback, chargeback, reserved instances. You've built the muscle. But AI breaks both models simultaneously. It's consumption-based like cloud. Cost spikes when usage spikes, and you often don't know why until the bill arrives. It's seat-based like SaaS, but half the seats are embedded inside tools you already bought, invisible in the contract. It's labor adjacent, replacing workflows, augmenting headcount, changing what a team of 10 can produce, but it doesn't show up in your headcount model. And it lives on cloud. Every AI workload runs on cloud infrastructure, which means if you can't see your cloud clearly, you can't see your AI at all. Finance doesn't know how to forecast it, procurement doesn't know how to govern it, and FinOps wasn't built for it. And the result is that most organizations are flying blind into the fastest growing cost category in their technology budget. Not because technology didn't work, but because they never built the visibility to know whether it was working or not. They made the same mistake that Klarna made, just quieter. So what does good actually look like? I'm not talking about a new software category. I'm not talking about hiring a team of FinOps engineers and pointing them at AI. I'm not talking about another governance committee that meets quarterly and produces a report that nobody reads. I'm talking about a fundamental shift in how finance, procurement, and technology leadership think about AI together. 3 things have to change. First, you treat AI cloud procurement as one operating system, not 3 separate conversations. And I know, breaking down silos is not a hot take. You've heard it at every conference for 15 years. But AI is the first cost category that physically cannot be governed by any one of these functions alone. This isn't a collaboration problem, it's a structural one. Right now, in most organizations, these 3 functions are siloed. Cloud costs live in engineering, procurement owns SaaS contracts, and finance does the forecasting. Nobody has the full picture because nobody owns the full picture. But AI doesn't respect those boundaries. An AI workload starts as a procurement decision. Someone buys a tool or approves an API. It runs on cloud infrastructure. That's an engineering and FinOps problem. It produces outcomes or it doesn't, and that shows up in business performance. That's a finance problem. If those three conversations are happening separately, you will always be behind. You will always be reconciling after the fact, and you will always be the last to know. The companies that win are the ones that connect those dots in real time. Not at the end of the quarter, not at renewal, in real time. Second, you have to build the business context layer. This is the insight that most AI governance conversations completely miss. And it's the one that separates real visibility from the illusion of it. Raw telemetry is not enough. I can show you a dashboard that says your organization used 2.3 million AI tokens yesterday. I can show you which models, which tools, what it costs, hour by hour and day by day. And it tells you almost nothing, because data without context is just noise. Here's what I mean. Knowing that someone in your organization used Claude 47 times last week is interesting, but knowing that the accounts payable team in your Chicago finance cost center used Claude 47 times last week to reconcile vendor invoices and that their processing time dropped 40%, now that's a business decision. The difference between those two statements isn't the AI usage data, it's the business context layered on top of it. Business context is how your organization is actually structured. Departments, cost centers, security boundaries, projects, business units, geographies. It's the organizational taxonomy that defines how work gets done, how money gets allocated, and how accountability flows. When you layer that context onto AI telemetry, everything changes. Suddenly you can see that marketing is your highest AI adopter, but engineering is getting the most ROI. You can see that 3 different business units are paying for overlapping tools. You can see that one cost center has provisioned AI access to data that sits outside their security boundary. And you can see that a single project team is consuming 60% of your AI budget with results nobody measured. Without that context layer, all you have is a bill and a usage log. You can see the spend, but you can't govern it. You can see the activity, but you can't attribute it. You can see the tools, but you can't rationalize them. But here's what business context also enables that almost nobody's talking about yet. It's the foundation of organizational intent. Think about what Klarna was missing. It wasn't data, it had plenty of it. What it was missing was the organizational context that would have told the AI agent, this customer has been with us for 7 years. They sit in our premium segment, and their lifetime value is 12 times the cost of this interaction. So don't optimize for speed, optimize for retention. That's not a prompt. That's not a model capability. That's organizational intent made machine readable. Business context is the raw material that makes intent possible. Without it, your AI tools are operating in a vacuum, technically capable, but organizationally blind. This is the layer that FinOps eventually built for the cloud. Tagging strategies, chargeback models, cost allocation frameworks. All of it was really just business context wrapped around infrastructure telemetry. That's what made cloud governable. AI needs the same layer, and it's harder to build because AI behavior doesn't map neatly to the organizational structures finance and procurement already understand. But without it, you don't have governance. You have the illusion of governance. And more importantly, without it, you don't have intent. You have AI that's technically brilliant and organizationally blind. Real-time visibility plus business context equals the foundation everything else gets built on. The investment decisions, the rationalization of tools, the performance expectations, security provisions, the chargeback models, and ultimately, the organizational intent that tells your AI not just what to do, but what to want. Third, You have to measure behavior first and govern second. This is the Shopify insight, and it's the hardest mindset shift for this room. Finance is trained to measure spend, procurement is trained to measure contract value, and FinOps is trained to measure waste. But none of those frameworks tell you whether AI is working. What tells you whether AI is working is behavior. Who is using it? How often? In which workflows? With what outcomes? Whether adoption is growing or stalling. Whether teams with the highest AI usage are actually performing differently than the teams that aren't. That's what Shopify could see. That's why they knew where to double down. That's why their investment followed the value instead of the assumption. And here's the other side of the coin. Klarna could see behavior too. Resolution times, volume, speed, all of it improving. All of it pointing in the wrong direction. The difference isn't just measuring behavior, it's measuring the right behavior, connected to the right organizational outcomes. Behavior is the metric, not spend, not seats, not licenses, but behavior connected to intent. That's the real metric. Most organizations, they do this backwards. They buy tools, adoption spreads organically. Then costs grow in ways nobody predicted. And then someone in finance flags it, and procurement tries to rationalize it. And then finally, a governance policy gets written. By that point, you're already cleaning up a mess. The new model flips that sequence. Visibility first before you scale, before you standardize, before you write the policy. But I know what some of you are thinking right now. Rob, that's great advice for someone starting from zero. I'm not starting from zero. I'm already in a mess. That's fair. Some of you, or most of you are. So let me reframe it. Visibility first doesn't mean you have to start there. It means you start there now. Wherever you are in your journey, the next step is always the same. Get eyes on what's actually happening before you do anything else. Don't write the governance policy yet. Don't rationalize the tool stack yet. Don't build the chargeback model yet. First, see it, all of it. What's being used, by whom, where it sits in the organization, what it's costing, what infrastructure it's running on, and what data it's touching. That inventory is your reset point. It's how you stop the bleeding and start making decisions instead of reactions. Think of it like a financial audit. You don't redesign the chart of accounts before you know what's in it. You look first and then you act. The organizations that are winning right now aren't the ones who got it right from the start. They're the ones who stopped guessing the fastest. And the new operating model looks like this. Not just do we have a contract, but who is using AI, in which part of the organization, for what workflows, at what cost, on what infrastructure, with what data, producing what outcomes. And are we expanding investment where it's working or reallocating away from where it isn't? That's the operating model. That's what separates the Shopifys from the Klarnas. And the deeper insight, the one that most organizations haven't arrived at yet, is that this operating model isn't just a governance framework, it's the foundation of organizational intent. The companies that build this capability aren't just going to govern AI better, they're going to align it better. They're going to deploy it with a clear understanding of what they're actually needed to do, not just what it can measure. That's the competitive advantage. Not the model, not the budget, the organizational intelligence layer that connects AI capability to organizational purpose. Visibility isn't just a governance tool, it's how you aim. Before I close, let me leave you with 3 things you can do this quarter without buying anything from anybody. 1, ask your cloud team to pull every AI-related line item from your cloud bill for the last 6 months. Azure OpenAI, Bedrock, SageMaker, Vertex AI. I promise you the number will be bigger than you think, and I promise you nobody has been tracking it. Number 2, count your AI licenses. Copilot seats, ChatGPT Enterprise, Claude, Gemini. Find out how many you're paying for and how many are actually being used. Most organizations we talk to find that 30 to 40% of those seats are sitting idle. And number 3, ask one question at your next budget review. Which team is getting the most value from AI? And how do we know? If nobody can answer that, you've just identified the problem this entire talk was about. Those 3 things cost you nothing, and they will tell you more about your AI landscape than any analyst report or vendor pitch. And when you do them, when you actually look, you're going to find something uncomfortable. The spend is bigger than you thought. The adoption is more uneven than you assumed. And nobody in your organization can connect the dots between what you're spending on AI and what you're actually getting from it. That's not a failure. That's just where everyone is right now. The organizations that are winning and that will win, they don't win because they have the best AI. The models are commoditizing faster than anyone predicted. In 2 years, the gap between GPT and Claude and Gemini will be negligible for most enterprise use cases. The organizations that win will win because they can see what's actually happening inside their own walls. And because the visibility lets them move faster, invest smarter, and course correct before the customer tells them something is wrong. The goal isn't to govern AI. Governance is what you do when you're scared of something, and fear is a terrible operating model. The goal is to adopt AI faster than your competitors, to find where it's creating real value in your organization and pour fuel on it, to find where it isn't and stop wasting money, to build the kind of visibility that turns AI spend from a cost center into a competitive weapon. That's the flywheel Shopify built. That's what Klarna didn't have. And that's the difference between an AI strategy and an AI headline. And the advantage compounds. The organizations building this right now are going to be very hard to catch in the next 3 years. And we're not just talking about mid-market organizations figuring this out. The largest hyperscalers in the world are working on this problem right now too. Because scale doesn't solve visibility, it makes the problem harder. The question isn't whether AI will matter to your business. I think that's settled. The question is whether you'll be able to see it clearly enough to capitalize on it. You approved the AI spend. Now, do you know if it's working?